What's up, guys? I'm Frosty the Sandwich. Welcome back to Marvel Rivals. Today we're doing another VOD review of a ranked game, this time in Season 1. I did go down to Plat 3. This is a game from Plat 2, but as you're about to see, there's multiple GM players. I think 3 on the enemy team and 4 GM players on my team, including myself. We're GM last season, and so we are climbing our way back up the ranks again. And thankfully, Hela is not banned yet. And I didn't play Hela a whole lot when I was grinding up the ranks the first time, but honestly, after having her get banned almost every single ranked game once I got into Diamond and above, abuse her. If you're strong on a character like Hela or Hawkeye, just abuse them until you get into the ranks where they get banned. I promise you. And there's the first death you're going to see. You'll only get to see 2 more of those, so you're welcome. Enjoy. Honestly, on this map, I really prefer just going left there and breaking the wall. I don't like sitting on this sight line, even as a character like Hela, because you'll just get picked like that by random spam too. I don't even know if that Hawkeye necessarily meant to hit me, or if he was just spamming that corner. Could have been either of the two. But here we should be pushing even further left, in my opinion, but we kind of hung up out here to try and get some early picks. We are trying to hit the back line and avoid shooting the tank if possible. And this is, I really like pushing back here. In fact, on this map, try and convince your entire team to just push around to this side, because if you push behind to this building, all of a sudden your team has a high ground and you become very difficult for them to deal with. I don't recommend trying to just force the issue through that choke. But yeah, as you can see, us wrapping around with maybe a few of our other teammates was enough to split their attention and allow the rest of the team to push in. So even if you don't convince your team to push with you, you can still absolutely get value by just coming over here yourself. And we did elect to kill the Hawkeye first in that fight because he's really the only threat on the enemy team to us, and then we killed the healers. You could mix that up. You could probably kill the healers first next time, because if they were good, they could have kept the Hawkeye alive, and we aggroed him by shooting at him. So we could have easily lost the duel there. But if they're low, you might pick off your threat before you go for the healers. It is up to you and up to what's happening in that moment to make that decision. Normally, I would advise you to go for the healers first. But there are some times where it's okay to kill a DPS or a tank first, especially if they're low. Here, we're trying to wrap around and split their attention again, maybe pick off a healer in the back line. We do find a kill on that cloak and dagger, which is really good. And then we kind of just tickle them in the back, make sure they can't just keep focusing on one direction. They have to split their attention and focus on me and deal with me. I think Hela does a really good job, not necessarily playing backline, but doing you play with your team and then just make random flanks to force them to have to shift attention and then go back to your team. That's the style I like to play with her a lot, is I kind of just dive in, or not really dive in, but I'll basically go around to the left or right and try and find an off angle where I can get a pick on maybe 1 or 2 healers. And then I'll go back to the main team and push. Here we got a really good shield usage by our invisible woman, by the way. This game was really good. And I know the shield looks red. Unfortunately, the VOD review for this put me on the enemy team. I did change the highlights so that my teammates are blue and they're red, but if you see an ability that's red, it's actually friendly, and if you see an ability that's blue, it's actually enemy ability. Just so that's clear. Sorry. I wish you were always on the friendly side when you were doing these VOD reviews. That would be very nice, but that is not the case. Here, I like taking this angle, especially with a shield on it, because you can kind of reach back into the enemy's spawn and pick off some healers as they're coming out sometimes. So I'll either hang out right on this left side of the bridge, or I'll go up on top of it. Both are really good spots. The building over there can be destroyed, as you can see, so I don't usually like hanging it out there. Another spot is that jump pad, but you're a little exposed on that jump pad, especially if you're going to try and float. Hela's passive is really nice, but it also makes you incredibly easy to hit in the air. So I don't tend to use it that much. And here we're looking for another flank. I really like flanking on the left side over here. There's a lot of spots where you can poke out and get some cheeky kills. I don't know what, I think the Invisible Woman was maybe just trying to spot us out there, and unfortunately she got caught and killed. Which means they're a healer down and we can kind of go to town here. I really like that cubby hole up there. Of course, this entire section can be destroyed, as you just saw. So you'll just have to understand that you get a couple of shots and then you usually have to move. Otherwise, you can get trapped. And then here I really like going up on the right side. I don't think I go up there. But where that Hawkeye was is usually where I like to wrap around. There's a spot where you can walk around and not be seen by the enemy team. And you can usually come out and get a pick on a DPS because that's where they like to hang out. And then go for their backline. Here we're doing an aggressive ult inside to basically clean up the enemy team, and then keep the ones that are trying to poke out and maybe come touch the cart, keep them in their base. Pretty standard Hela stuff, honestly. And that's the thing about Hela, is if you're good at your left click, this character kind of plays herself. I don't really think I do anything special on her other than I've played a lot of shooters and trained my aim a lot. One thing I would note is that the reticle that I am using is different. I've been trying I do really like the dot reticle on precision characters, specifically like Hela. I prefer the crosshair on Punisher because he's more of a tracking character. But when you're doing those single click shots, I really do like the dot crosshair. So try it out. But honestly, the best advice I can give you on this character is go into the practice range, go down to the shooting range, and set up some Mantis bots to move around randomly and practice shooting them in the head. That crosshair placement and getting the right sensitivity. I personally set my in-game sensitivity down to a 3 for both horizontal and vertical. And I also use 400 DPI on my mouse. I have a giant mouse pad though. I literally use a Magic the Gathering playmat as my mouse pad. But yeah, those are some tips. You can also play aim labs or Kovacs. I usually play aim labs, but there's no substitute for in-game practice. Honestly, you can get better. Don't get me wrong. Those games are very good at training your aim, but you also need in-game time. And I mean specifically not necessarily even like playing against enemies, but go into the training range and just practice for 30 minutes. I typically at least do 15 minutes every day, every morning before I start playing. I go into the training range and just practice and warm up my aim. And that's another thing you can do is warm up routines, especially on aim-intensive characters like Hela. You should definitely warm your aim up before you just jump right into a game. It'll help a lot. The shark's always hard to hit. Another thing that I guess talking about aim in general is sometimes I've found that it's actually a lot easier to land shots when I just place my crosshair in the enemy path and wait for them to walk into it, as opposed to trying to flick my crosshair into the enemy. I don't necessarily do that so much on Hela, but there's a lot of other characters I like to do that on. And remember how we were on the attack side? I strongly stressed coming around to this back alley as probably the best way to push this point, and that's why we're also going to do the best we can to defend this side so we don't allow them to push over here, because this is basically the key to them getting a point, is having a couple of their DPS get around behind you and up on the high ground behind your team. And then you're basically splitting the attention of your team. Some people are going to have their back to the enemy, and essentially everyone has their back to an enemy in that situation. So it's not good for your team. So you really do. I really like playing up on this rooftop. Also, another thing to note is it's not to our benefit there, but you can absolutely, if you think people are in the building, you can break the ceiling there and shoot them through the building. I really love just taking out the middle section there and shooting into the building if I think people are using it as cover. There's also a health pack down there, and that can make it very quick for you to get to it, especially if somebody's going to beat you to the health pack outside. You can just go for the health pack in the building instead. I think this was a pretty one-sided hold here, and we held it down. And in no small part, it was just understanding, having map knowledge, I guess, here, and understanding where the good flank spots are. In almost every map, there's usually a section you can break as the attacking team to get around and avoid having to push through the same choke. And that's when you're defending, you need to basically try and adapt and cover those angles as best you can as well. You need to still hold the choke, don't get me wrong. If you just give the choke for free, they'll walk up. It's not like they're intelligent human beings. These are very good players. They will walk up if you let them. So you have to basically, I guess the key is to stay spread out. And I think at the higher ranks, you actually do see teams more spread out more frequently than in the lower ranks. You just kind of see these death balls occur where everyone's just kind of jumping around inside of each other and randomly killing each other. There isn't a whole lot of sense to what's happening. Here we are staying spread out, which means that, number one, they can't just fire one area and get a bunch of value. They have to pick their shots. Another thing about it is, like, if any one of us go down, it's not a huge deal. They're having a Rocket Raccoon, super clutch, being able to come back really quickly and keep holding it down, although I think our team honestly probably had it there. But yeah, that is Hela. I don't typically play her, normally because she's banned, but also because she is kind of just, she just got nerfed, but as you can see, she's still alive and well in the meta. I still think she's going to get top picked, top banned in ranked, and we'll see if I'm sure they'll do mid-season changes as well. I hope they do anyway, because I still do think her and Hawkeye are a menace. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like that, please like, comment, and subscribe. Till next time, stay frosty.